All right, in this quick video, I'm just going to walk through what I've done here. And this is the base portrait. It's the beginning. Looking at my histogram here, you can see that the highlights are not quite to the edge here. And I get this big spike, which is my background, and then I've got my information down here, which is my subject in the frame. So the first thing I did is I changed my camera profile located here to camera portrait, and you can see that that is flattening out the curve. In fact, it's compressing that information quite a bit. So I went ahead and added a little bit of contrast to that, and then I rolled my highlights up just a bit to brighten them. And then decided the easiest way to go about whitening up my background was to actually add a mask to the background right here. So I added this pin. If I hover over it, I can pull up the mask and it'll show me where I painted everything in red. And what this is doing is it's increasing the exposure by 0.25 in this part of the frame. And I have auto mask here turned on. And with auto mask on, the Lightroom will see these edges as I'm zooming in and keep the image from masking over that. So it'll keep the mask on the white part and it'll see this and won't let it bleed into that area there. And you can see it just goes right up to the edge, but that red does not bleed in over onto the side. Same thing is happening right there. And it's just barely touching in there on the face, but it kind of feathers out, so it works out just fine. So auto mask is a really useful thing for being able to see what that or to control where that mask goes. And that might then be too bright, but I can always go back in, press this, and let me turn off the overlay, which is M. No, it's not. It's K. This, it's like alphabet soup. There we go. And then I can lower this exposure down and kind of get it to the spot that I want it to be. So just bring it up a little bit, kick the highlights up maybe just a tidge too. And you can just kind of play with that and sort of figure out what works well. And the nice part is we can always go back, and if we want to look at it and say, oh, is that better or is this better, we got options. So I'm going to leave it there, so tone down a little bit. And you can look at the histogram and it just peaks right there on the side. So print really close to paper white. We have these tools right here, these little carrots, and they will show us what is going to be printed white or absolute white. So if anything shows up in red like that in the background, or in this case the background, that would print absolute white and have no detail in it whatsoever. Other things I'm going to do to this photo, I am going to whiten up her teeth just a little tiny bit, and then probably go in here and kind of soften up some of these wrinkles. To be honest, this image is one that I would take into Photoshop pretty quickly and probably work with in there, just because I'm going to have a little bit more control and a little more finer control than I am in Lightroom. But I will whiten the teeth here in Lightroom, and I would do that. I'll grab the teeth whitening preset to start, roll this back a little bit to about 40 on the saturation and 0.2 on exposure. I've got my brush set. I'm going to make it a little smaller, and I can just start painting. Oh, I didn't make a new brush. That's my problem. Let's make a new brush. Let's undo that. And let's go new brush, teeth whitening, because I was selected on the old one still. Jump in here. There we go. Now I start to see some changes happening. And your effect will differ. My flow right now is kind of low, so that will change kind of what that looks like. So let's just take a look at that. Yeah, that looks better. 4K to turn those tabs off, and then might also brighten up her eyes just a little bit, and then I'll take some redness out of that area. And again, we could do that with Decay. Just make sure we're on a new mask. Mask in this. Remember, it's got the teeth whitening setting on there right now, but that's okay. I'll show you what we're going to do here. We're going to zero that out. Zero that out, and then see if we went too low. So we just want to take a little bit of that redness out. So if we just knock this down just a hair like that, and you could change it in the temperature there a little bit, but that's probably the easiest is the saturation. So we can just look back at what that looks like. So really bright or red, and a little less so. We'll zoom back out there, see what that looks like. Okay, so there's our beginning, and there's our end. Not huge difference, but just kind of flattening some things out, smoothing it down. For cropping, I want that 8x10 crop again. I like that for portrait work. Something kind of like that there. All right, hope this has been useful. Let me know if you got feedback and questions. Oh, for the edit in Photoshop, all I have to do is right click on this and then say edit in Photoshop or edit photo. There we go, edit in, boom. And now Lightroom will make a new version of that photo and open it in Photoshop for me. And what's nice is when we go back into Lightroom, as soon as I press save here, that image will show up back in my catalog right next to the original. So we do a bunch of work to this. I press save. Lightroom automatically resaves it within -edit.tiff, which is something I'd set up already. And I close this, and then I go back into Lightroom, and here is my new Photoshop document right here. In fact, that's the one that is loaded that we're looking at right there. All right, there you go, editing in Photoshop, and this is also why editing, now watch this, when we compare these, my crop on this is that. Here you can see my crop is this. So if I goof up on my crop after I've edited in Photoshop, now I'm stuck with this, and then I would have to go back and export this out again, make a change, or redo the work in Photoshop, and then recrop the image. So that's why cropping last is always so important. But it's easy to get tangled up there. All right, hope this has been helpful.